Hey, what's up? It's Mario, Final Approach. Another podcast. This one's definitely different than what we've done before for sure. So we're up at Saskatchewan Goose Company with Tyler and the Viking from Iceland. And we're obviously hunting and spending the week or whatever. But while we were up here, I was talking about like a Field and Stream article that came out. Now, Field and Stream has been established 1871, so it goes way back. So they did an article, and they had a bunch of writers, and everybody put like everybody did something different, but it was the 25 greatest waterfowl hunters of all time. And the list is extensive. Like, if you want to go check it, like, do it. But I'm going to touch briefly on some of it, and then we're going to talk. Like, Fred Allen, who is number one and did, like, the modern duck call. And then you had number two was a guy who invented, like, the sneak boat. And then there's a bunch of conservationists, probably 3 or 4 of those guys, some writers like Nash Buckingham, one of the earliest carvers, and looking at the list, like we were talking, like John Browning's on there, of course Jack Miner's on there.
Jack Miner's, yeah.
I mean, which is like we were just there last year, guys, and these are like I guess the title just, I don't want to say bothered me, but it's like it was kind of, I don't want to say misleading, but it wasn't like what I was thinking of. Like, when I think of the 25 like greatest waterfowl hunters, like I
like myself, I think of guys that like like, not that conservation hunting go hand in hand, of course. Right. But when you're thinking of like hunters, I'm thinking of killers or people that changed the waterfowl industry, hunting, and methods of the way we pursue pursue waterfowl.
And that's where I am. And listen, the list is cool because there's people there that some of you might not have heard. You talk about, you're a big dog guy, like John Olin. He had King Buck, which was the only dog ever on a duck stamp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean that, Chick Major, obviously you know who Chick Major is if you're into any kind of calling and Stuttgart and all of that, like huge stuff. And then there's some guys the guy who invented the choke tube. And I mean, all these, there's definitely some, but like like Pat Pitt's on there.
Yeah.
I mean, Pat personally. So Jim Kripe, who was the guy who did Outlaw Silhouettes, which was like the first silhouettes.
Which is really cool.
You
and
go
I
back.
think,
they weren't invented like 3 years ago. They were invented way back when Jim did it, Outlaw Decoys, which is, if I can pull the...
I don't know, what number is he? Do you know?
19. So 91. So 91 would have been the first silhouettes. Because I know we were making our own. Me and my brother were in high school, like late 80s. So we were making silhouettes when he was printing them. It was like the first print process, right?
Printing ones. Because silhouettes have been around
forever.
Earlier than that.
Yeah, but
Correct.
the first
real production.
Where you had a photograph of
Correct.
an actual bird printed on a silhouette.
Yes, right. Not just a black and white handmade something or other.
Correct. And then Terry Denman's on there from Mojo, which it kind of goes, it says here, the idea came from a rice farmer in California that had a battery and then one blade, and then it said, but then those guys took it to a new level. Yeah, they made a decoy and did all that and so whatever, but I mean, like, good for Terry to be on here and all that, but the guy from California is the guy who did it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what
Terry
I mean?
just perfected.
Correct.
Perfected what?
Yeah.
The guy had the idea and Terry took it and did a lot with it. Like, you can't give it away, not from Terry too, but
well, sure. But this says, the guy, it doesn't even say the guy's name. So, and of course Phil Robertson's on there. Grounds is on there, which when I think of killers, Grounds is definitely one of the.
He should be a lot higher. Like, I never knew him myself, but I looked up to him for years, and like, he should be a lot higher than 24.
Right, and I mean they're just listing them as go. I don't think they're in any sort order.
I think it's not an importance order.
I don't think so either. I think they just put them. Obviously, Ron Latchell's on there. I mean, waterfowl hunting would not be what it is if there's no layout blind.
Correct.
Like, for sure. 100%. And, I mean, that was, well, the first ones went out in 93, but it was before when he had, like, the slider blinds, which there's only a few still, like, in the world because they were just so heavy. I think a guy in Wisconsin told me he had one or two left, like just crazy history. So Latchaw's definitely on there. I mean, and Phil Robertson, I mean, they mentioned the Duck Dynasty stuff, but like Phil it was the VHS.
Yeah, I was a big Duck, I don't want to say a Duck Dynasty guy, but I was a big Duck Commander guy.
For sure.
Way before the TV show. And that was like duck calls and the movies, I remember going to Cabela's and ordering every movie I could get my hands off of and whatever. And
oh yeah.
I had them all of them, watched them all the time. That was
Phil and the Duckman.
Yes.
Yes.
And the CD, everything, like it was.
Well,
I even had them in Iceland.
Yeah.
Well, and if your favorite scene isn't the deer coming through the decoys in the timber,
yeah, where
and
he
him
rolled
going
it
on
with
the
the
dead
shotgun
run and rolling it, and saying that's a Louisiana double, right?
Yeah.
like there's, you know what I mean? So all right, so then that's the list. So then all of us have been talking. This has been like a buzz all week. So then I just said we're doing a podcast. We're going to talk because there's definitely a pile of people on here. Like when I look at and we're going to talk like not conservation, okay? We're talking straight waterfowl industry, waterfowl killers, waterfowl hunters. Like we're going straight there. So I'm sure we're going to have some of the same because I made a list, and I'm sure regional too. Because you're worldly, you're going to be, you were on Ontario, Canada, and then what you saw in the States.
Yeah. We were Canada, but we were. Like where I grew up in Southern Ontario, like I said, right beside Jack Miners.
Right.
We're Canadian, but we're pretty Americanized right there.
For sure.
So.
Okay, do you want to start and put a couple out? Because, like, it's easy for me. I got so many that I can just roll, like, hard on this.
I'm gonna we got of
and
course
we're gonna agree on a bunch of these.
Yeah.
I know that.
So I guess for me. Of course, Tim and Phil, that's just
sure. Like Grounds is for sure. And
I
knew Tim really
down.
good. I didn't go spend time in his house. Him and Hunter, I just knew them because I was selling when I was making my custom decoys. Tim bought a bunch and loved them, and we just talked at calling contests and whatever. So yeah, he's there. He's the grandfather. But let me start then, because if it's not for Charlie Hess and the Hesses and the short recall that they made, that then Grounds makes the Clucker Guts and the Mag Clucker and all that comes out, without that, the Clucker Guts or whatever, the half breed and all the other short reads, basically goes back, if it's not Charlie Hess and the Hess, that whole thing doesn't happen.
correct.
So, now did Tim go the extra, then he took that idea and just rolled. But you got to go back to where
he ran with it.
You got to go back to where it started. So go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's exactly
Grounds is on
what
it.
I was going to touch on. Yeah, for sure. And then I have some I don't know, we probably have quite a few of the same.
Go to your biggest ones then. Go to the biggest ones. I don't want to say go to importance, but go to the killers.
Well, the guy that I looked up to, and this is maybe a controversial one for what
I know
happened,
what you're going to say, but I'm going to agree.
Jeff Foyles.
Foyles, for sure.
Foyles. He was for me, my start in waterfowl, I grew up outside of Miners hunting there. My grandpa, we hunted. He hunted birds, but he wasn't a big bird hunter anymore. He was more of a moose hunter. And a buddy of mine, Steve, me and him decided to go, we hunted everything, rabbits and pheasants, and hunted with my Uncle Dave and all this stuff. Then we went duck hunting, and our duck hunting, we were just jumping a pond. So we weren't really duck hunting per se. But the flock of mallards come up, I shoot one with my single shot cooey, he shoots two, and 2 of the 3 ducks, so the drake, believe it or not, I did shoot a drake.
Woo!
Mine was minor banded and his was minor banded. So neither of us knew what that meant at the time.
Right.
But we grew up outside of miners, and we thought, we did something bad, and then we figured it out. And then ever since then, that was kind of like the start of it for me.
For sure.
So then I started getting into it some more and this and that, and then I stumbled upon
The videos.
Mr. Foils.
And the videos.
And then I was like, wow.
It was
he was a rock star. He was a rock star.
100%.
He was 100% a waterfowl rock star.
Yes.
And I was like, that is unbelievable, and I need to do that.
Yeah. I mean, he got...
So for me, he fueled a lot of fire.
I can agree on that. I had some videos of him. I read articles and, interviews, and I was like, yeah, this guy's got it made.
Oh yeah, I was like, I had every Fallen Skies, when he had painted his dog's face up and all the and the
I forgot
stuff
about that.
Cafe, like
God, I don't remember.
wow,
I can't remember that.
I can remember the picture and the article.
The yellow
like
dog.
oh yeah,
face paint right on
unreal,
his face, like
unreal. I think his dog's name was Hawk.
Hawk.
Yeah.
For some reason, I wanted to say Moose, and I thought he had one that was Moose too, but I don't know.
I could be wrong.
But and I think you're right. So okay, so like if I was really listing, it would be grounds, foils, and then I've worked for 2 of I think the top 5 killers. If we were just going 5, we're going to go more. But Buck Gardner, which I don't think I've hunted with a better duck caller to kill birds than Buck. And I'm not gonna. I never hunted with Butch Richenbach or Jim Ronquist from R&T or John Stevens from R&T, which are all accomplished.
Those 3 were on my list.
Incredible callers, right? And we'll get to them. But I just saw what I saw of years of filming and doing stuff with Buck that, like, I've seen him work ducks that be like, no, you're not going to get those, and we get them. Well, he gets them. So for sure, Buck was. He's in my top 5 for sure. And then on the opposite side, on the Goose side, you're talking about, like, I work for Fred Zink. And if you want to talk about, like, killing geese consistently and knowing what to do and, taking, like Waterfowl TV at the time, the TV shows.
Oh, he did a lot.
He took it to like the next level because you had Walt Gabbert and Jeff Shelby and the whole crew of filming guys and editors and camera guys. Like, they took it to the next level. They took like Hollywood magic to the TV screen for waterfowl. It went next level. And that was a collective effort, but you don't do that without Fred's knowledge and all that other stuff. So there you go.
Oh, for sure. And like I said, same with his videos. Like his white truck, with the flames on it,
Yeah,
like
the
that was
350, for sure.
like that stuff is like, I don't know, I really want one, and like I think I'd look like a loser now driving around, but like doesn't
You've
matter.
got that white truck.
I got a white truck. It doesn't got flames on it yet, but maybe.
So who else after those does somebody come to mind for you?
Bill Saunders.
I mean, if you're in the West, for sure. If you're in the West, and you don't know Bill Saunders or you don't know him on the calling circuit or whatever, and just as a guide and an outfitter and a killer, for sure. I mean,
And I'm gonna go the other side now.
yeah, go for it.
Sean Mann.
For sure.
Sean Mann.
Not just because we possibly could be related, and we're both extremely good looking. Last name Mann.
Roger that.
Eastern Shoreman.
For sure. And Josh
Like-
Neweiler, who then took it to another level.
Yes.
But yes, it happens with Sean Mann for sure.
Yes.
Yes.
I think for sure.
I personally know 3 people on that list. Fred Zink, Buck Gardner, and Pat Pitt.
Yeah.
And, all of these guys, all 3, have certainly made me think waterfowling in a different way. One of them most, in any manner, and that's Pat Pitt. He is knowledgeable and, he has read the future. He has depicted everything that we're seeing today, the decline of the sport in the manner that it is. This is stuff that he started
What
talking
people
to me.
have done to what's happening now.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is what he's been talking about for decades without anyone chiming in or listening to him. And he's just, well, he is one of my best friends. So he tells me stories. He hunted with Nash Buckingham and on the Olin farm and over at Beaver Dam.
Right.
So when he started duck hunting in 71, he got mentored by these old timers. And
The real old
yeah, the
timers.
real old timers.
Yes.
And I've been riding with him in his pickup truck and him telling me stories. And I talk a lot, but those are those moments and those times where I don't talk. I just
You're listening.
listen
Yeah.
and think. And so there's a number one guy on that list for me. But with that being said, a lot of other people on that list influenced me.
For sure.
They made me want to go from Iceland to the U.S.
Right,
and
to do it.
experience it, witness it, just breathe it all in. And what I could buy, what I could order, and what I could get shipped, I would do, you know, just because of these guys. So,
Yeah.
100%.
and that has definitely filtered over to mainland Europe. So there's a big change going there today. This guy being an initiative on a lot of it, you know, mindset and tutoring. But yeah, those are the guys that I can say influenced the most. You know, Fred Sink being, you know, he's told me a lot of things and just looking at what he's doing. So, but there are guys on that list that I don't think they should be in the list. Not that they don't deserve credit for what they did, but the name of the list is wrong, in my opinion.
Well, like I said, there was just like the list was just like lots. They were trying to fit it all in. Like I'm guessing, like conservationists, guys who created products. But like I said, what we're talking about is like guys that have changed the industry, but were also killers. Like Latchaw was on the list along with Grounds. Like Latchaw was a guide. Latchaw was a straight killer. So in him and Grounds, and now so tell me the next name that comes to your list, because it's with Grounds and Latchaw, and who's on the road with those guys.
Well, personally, there's a couple that come to mind, but
Who's in the videos and who's
the one
on the list?
okay, the one that I seen a picture
Yes.
of, and
Yeah.
I seen a picture of this man,
Yes.
and I had no clue.
And
who
I
he
know
was.
him personally, so go.
And like I have it saved on my phone, because when people say to me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" As I'm now 37, just had my birthday, but it was a picture of the band man.
Yeah. Duke Levan, the band man.
Levan. The picture with him with all the bands on his neck. I know he didn't shoot them all, but like
Yes.
I
He had all the Grounds.
Yes,
and
he had everybody's
band.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I seen that, I was like, that right there
Well,
is who I want to be.
so Duke helped Ron do like the first framing for the Eliminator, because Duke was like a machinist, a metal machinist, and just an incredibly smart and a flat killer for sure. So I mean, you had them all together, then you throw Bill Saunders in there, and you just had like straight killers right there, that group. Just like Foils. Foils had him and his crew. You know, you had all these camps that were going. You know what I mean?
Well, you look at the industry now, and everything went back to Foils and, you know, Tim and all that stuff back in the day. Now it's like Zink's got his own stuff, Foils has his own stuff, you know, like, and then you look at like when, correct me if I'm wrong, what's it called? When FA did that I remember that in the magazine they had
all the flyways.
They had the flyways and the big guys in the flyways.
Yes.
They all have their own calling companies, or all
Well,
have done
it was Saunders.
something huge,
It
right?
was Saunders and Sean Mann, and then it was Foils, and then it was John Vaca. And John Vaca was, you know, out of like Kansas City in that area, but he was part of the Foils crew. You know what I mean? And then John Vaca was at Final Approach for a long time. So, you know, and he was a caller and he was a killer. So he's there. You know what I mean? I would include him because he was in that Foils camp when they were just rocking. Yeah. So you got to have him on there. Another guy that probably comes right to mind once we start talking that, and I've hunted with him, I've seen him, I know what he can do, and it's Sean Stahl. You know, out of Michigan. Like, I mean,
Yeah, he's close to home for me.
flat
I've met him a couple
killer.
times in Dundee, Michigan. I've met, talked to him. Straight up nice guy. Tell you anything you need to know. I still follow him on social stuff. Killer.
And I think that we can be on the same plate when we say that the innovators on that list, they were probably doing it. They were thinking out of the box
For sure.
to kill more.
For sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So
I
not
have
saying
to
that
come
they
up with
deserve to be on the list
better
is wrong.
mousetrap. I
Yeah.
have to get it.
Yeah, they
were
wanted to-
doing. They were
then they
creating
figured
stuff
out
to get
that
better to
hey,
shoot more birds.
I found the golden goose.
Yeah.
I'm going to sell this.
Yeah, they weren't doing it to say, hey,
They
let's do
didn't
this
do
to make
it
a pile
initially.
of money.
They-
were doing here to hunt.
To kill more.
And then when people caught on to what they were talking about,
They
they said,
decided
oh, maybe
to
I
start.
can make money at
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah.
And then another person that comes to mind for me is the flag man,
Randy Bartz.
Randy Bartz.
He's on my list because
You know,
And
that-
now listen, Randy guided forever. Like I don't know if a lot of people know who Randy is. Like go look at your history.
He did videos.
You don't have a flag, without Randy Bartz. No company in the world has a flag without Randy Bartz.
Like every company has one, and they're all
Yes,
cheap or
They're
whatever.
all
But
off
that
of-
was like,
Randy Bartz.
Yeah.
And I know for sure, like Randy Bartz is from Minnesota, and Randy Bartz is a straight. I believe he has passed away. Randy was a absolute killer of a guide for sure. So he's on there. I'm gonna go back, but another guy who call ducks incredibly well, not on the goose side, but also was doing videos and TV and everything else when it was going, and that's Barney Califf.
Yeah.
Because when Barney was doing videos with Buck, and you have Barney and Buck in the boat, I'm just like, there is no duck that is safe between the two of them. They've won contests, champion to champion, like contest after contest after contest, like those two, and then just straight calling and killing. No, those two, yeah. So I would put Barney on that list as well. Yeah. Who else you got? Because now we're getting there. Because I have a couple guys that are very regional. You know what I mean? And if you're like, okay, so Northwest in Washington, like there's 3 guys that were pretty, well, I'll say 4 guys. Steve Schultz, who nobody in Pennsylvania knows who Schultz is, but if you're in the Northwest, you know who Steve Schultz is. And if you live there, you know what I'm talking about. He was part of this crew of guys who were just like Schultz just straight kills. He has a mind that as far as like what the ducks want to hear, see, the whole deal. Like he's next level. Mike Franklin, who has Pacific Wings Guide Service. I guided for Mike. I learned a lot from Mike. Like Mike would develop properties that you'd be like, there isn't a duck in this county. And 2 years later, there's, he's changed the flyway with this property that they developed that's like a couple 100 acres. And you're like, dude, you're holding more birds than the refuge systems that are nearby. He's another one. He's in the Northwest. Alex Langbell. And when you talk about the zinc guys, you talk about Alex Langbell and Craig Ritchie when they were guiding together. That was Northwest. They were just killing.
Stone-faced killers.
Yes.
and I've hunted with Alex, and yes, he is.
Yeah.
Killer.
And he's got his own stuff going now. So that's what I'm saying. Everybody has like done stuff to improve the industry, do stuff in the industry, make it better, but they all are developing stuff or doing stuff to make it easier or harvest more birds or
necessity.
do whatever, right?
Yeah.
I got a couple more on the list. Do you have anybody else you can?
Nah.
I have some regional guys like so let's go back. Like I said, we were going to talk about like the whole R&T crew, because you talk about them and you talk about like taking calling to another level, and
Like Butch?
and contest
Yeah,
calling.
that's
You
who
talk
I-
about
I have
Butch
Butch on.
Richenbach, right? You talk about Butch as past, but Butch is a legend without a doubt. And just what he did for kids and teaching the kids and building the calling circuit and Stuttgart and the world contest, and then mentoring, John Stevens, who goes on to win all these contests, and then Jim Ronquist, who is another guy that's like high level, duck killer in the woods. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I mean, and I just thought of another guy. So now I'm all going sideways. But I'm looking at my list to see who I'm missing. We're almost.
Yeah, you touched on a bunch of the ones I had on too.
And listen, if you're watching this or listening to this, like, go comment or tell me like who we're missing, because I'd love to know more about these anybody in your area. Like the kid that's down in Arkansas, there's a bunch of them. There was guys who were working at Echo Calls. Rob Watts was a killer. Rusty Creasy
Yeah.
is a killer for sure.
Yeah.
Like you see him, you can tell he's a killer.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't know him. I think I've seen him, like whatever it shows or whatever, and we're not in the same camps, so we don't cross paths really or talk, but like you can tell.
Yeah.
Like you could, like if he does videos or he does something or he's doing something, you can tell he's a killer. Like I'm be like, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
But if we're talking about innovation, and a lot of these guys on the list are just innovative guys.
Sure.
Rob Roberts,
Yeah.
look what he's done.
Well, if we're gonna
Go down that path.
Yeah.
Well, well, let's go back. Like if you're going to talk about him, you have to go back and talk about the whole thing that was Patternmaster, which was Mike C. from Kansas, I believe it was Kansas, and then Larry Poe, and then Julie and Larry Lutnager, who is Patternmaster. Like they all had their hand in it, and we repped that for a while when I worked for Fred, and it was insane. Like, and I still to this day shoot one because of I'm so used to it and what it does. But you talk about him, and then you shoot a kicks.
I shoot a kicks. That's what I like.
And that's what I'm saying. So and I don't know who is.
Yeah, and I don't know
behind the
either. Like
kicks. Right.
the reason, and this is now we're going back again,
Yeah, go
because back to Phil Robertson and Jace.
for sure.
That's and this is like media stuff, right? And who knows if kicks is the best or whatever it is, but they had it,
Right.
so I needed to have it,
Yeah.
Right.
right?
Right.
So I don't even know how long ago that was.
I'm looking.
But I've been
looking to
I've
see.
been
I have
I've been
no
out
idea.
here. I've been in Saskatchewan for 12 years, and I shot it for years at home. So I probably shot that for I don't know 20 years maybe. I don't maybe 18.
Yeah.
I don't know how long they've been out for. I could be wrong here, but 15 to 20 years I've shot the same
The same
choke tube.
Right.
When I've always shot a full. And when I was in Ontario, when we shoot divers and stuff, I shoot extra full.
Right.
Right? And then when I moved here, I realized that
You
don't need no
that.
extra full. And I don't really need full choke, but
No.
it's just what I've always shot.
Right, and you're used
so
to it.
every gun that I ever get, doesn't matter what it is,
Gets a kick.
gets
full.
a kick full. That's
Right.
just always in my gun. It's just a thing in my head. Phil had it, and you go back to like where I grew up, like I said, outside of miners and all that stuff. But I remember as a kid, like starting to get into hunting here. Like if you did not have a final approach layout, and I'm not saying that just because we're final approach stuff right now.
And a black hoodie.
You had to clearly, like this
Black
is
hoodie.
black
a
and
layout
white,
blind.
black
Right.
and white hoodie.
Right.
You had to have a layout blind.
It was it.
And
There's
you
no
had to
doubt.
have Bigfoot decoys.
Yeah.
If you did not have those,
You weren't going to kill a thing.
Yeah, you had no choice.
Well, and if you were blown,
you would never kill a bird if you didn't have those things.
Nope.
I remember saving. There was a bait shop in Wheatley that you could actually, you didn't have to buy them in a 4-pack. He would sell them to you singles. And I remember I'd save enough money, I'd buy one single.
So you could afford one.
Yeah, because I didn't have any money. You know, I was pumping gas, working at a restaurant. Then I worked in a butcher shop, you know, on the side, and I'd have enough money to buy one decoy. So that's going to game change me, right? So now I got 2. Now I got, now I got a couple dozen. Now I got a couple more, But if you didn't have that,
Yeah.
you were not in it. You were a loser.
You were out of the game.
You were out of the game. You needed to have that stuff to kill birds. You don't need that stuff, but I still sometimes in my head.
Well, you had to have a short read as well. You had to have a short read
for
call.
sure.
No matter what you had, whatever was the hottest, you had to have it.
Yeah, so I started blowing a lot. Like I had a half breed. I blew that for a long time.
sure.
And then you talk
Everybody
about
had one.
regional stuff like
I know
George.
who you're gonna say. Yep.
I pro staff for George Lynch, like Lynch
Yep.
Pub Calls. So I still have a closer
Yep.
that I literally have drawers and drawers and drawers of calls.
Well, and in Canada, when we start talking Canada, you have to talk about Craig McDonald.
Yeah, so he's from my area. So
That's right.
that's what I have. So I have a GK Canuck, Craig
Yep.
McDonald. He's from my
Yep.
area, and he is a killer.
Yep.
Right. So that's what I blow to this day. I have an old GK, and then I have a closer, and like I've changed the guts 100 times, but those are the 2 that I blow, and I got a foils. Those are my 3 goose calls that I have on my lanyard, and they probably will still be on my lanyard if I don't lose them. Another 20 years.
I mean, the only, I have other regional guys. There's only 2 other guys on my regional list that I would say a lot of people would know. Dave Smith on the decoy side, but also just on, the side of creativity and him being in the Northwest or whatever. But Dave is on that list, and another guy that people won't know is Don Guthrie, who had Columbia River Decoys before I took it over from Don, and Don was in that Latchaw group with Latchaw and Duke Levan, and him and Duke still talk and go fishing and do whatever. and Don with Columbia River Decoys was so ahead. He was like, and I say this and people don't understand it. Like Don was 20 years ahead of decoys and what they should look like, with how realistic the paint was and the carvings were and everything else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've got a name.
Let's hear it.
Hadel.
I had him on. I had the whole family, and I thought of it at the last minute. And I didn't write it down, but you're absolutely right. The
Yep.
Haydels, all of them.
All of them. Yeah.
All the dad, the sons,
Yeah.
the whole
Eli
family,
and all of them.
everybody.
Yeah, all of them.
for sure. And then you can go. You said it the other day. Say whatever you want, but Primos.
Yeah.
Primos,
Will
yeah.
Primos
Or
and-
Night and Hail.
And Night and Hail. I mean,
That was like, you gotta remember where we were. We never couldn't get, like, if you didn't cross the border, you couldn't get a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a Night and Hair power clucker, or not, and
It was.
and it
You're
was,
right.
you could make it work.
yeah.
Well,
and all those guys were killers in their own right. You know what I mean? The Haydels were
Yeah.
100% waterfowl, hardcore, whatever. You go to Will Primos, and yeah, they waterfowl hunted and they had waterfowl calls, but he was a deer turkey killer, right? For sure. Then you go to Night and Hail and those guys, and they say that those, I don't know for sure because I don't know my history that well on the turkey side, and I don't know if it was Night or I don't know if it was Harold, or one of them was like the turkey killer. Like you couldn't.
yeah, and I don't know the turkey stuff
But-
myself.
but-
Then they did tube calls, the tube call guy, whatever.
sure. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that we're probably missing. And the reason why my list is where it is because the region where I grew up
sure,
and
same with me.
what we seen. There's other guys too that, like regional stuff, like older guys, and like, there's a guy, Steve Derbyshire. He passed away. He's from my area. He hunted with Tim and guided out there in the U.S. and stuff, and he was from my hometown, and he was a killer. Like he was a trapper, a killer, a hunt. Like he had nothing fancy, and he killed a lot of birds. So there's a lot of guys like that
There-
most
there's no
people
doubt.
wouldn't.
That's right.
They're not innovators in like, they've made
They're just
Goose
regional killers.
regional killers.
And
Yeah.
you looked up to those people.
Yes,
There-
100%.
For sure there's people like that.
You,
So
you
that's-
know, there's a lot of guys like that. right?
There's a ton like that. Like,
Maybe I was a little different from you guys, coming from where I was, because I wasn't being depicted by a flyway. So
Correct.
I just stood out of the
You
box
had a
and stared
wider
into
view.
it, and I was able to cherry pick what I liked from each flyway, because it was flyway depicted the way that it was
100%.
marketed back then.
it was.
So
Was
I was
very-
fortunate in that manner, but it is, yeah, those that I have mentioned are definitely game changers for me.
And we're missing some. Like
Oh,
I know.
oh
we're
yeah,
missing
we
some.
are.
Like you just said something that triggered me and Rick Dunn from Echo. Like I know Rick Dunn's a killer. Like you don't make calls like that.
No.
And not kill a
No.
pile of ducks.
No.
You know what I mean? So there's so many guys like that we're gonna miss. But it all started off that article, and I just been churning all week. Like I got to do this because this is, I don't know. So maybe we have to sit and do this again because I don't.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see what other people think.
I would love to listen.
and who, in the comments or whatever, people that we've missed,
for
Yeah.
sure.
right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure we could do a whole other deal on it. So
Because and there's like, and the people like you guys talk about some guys, and I know who they are.
Right.
But like, I'm not saying I'm a lot younger than you, but I'm a little bit younger than you.
Oh, I see.
And then there's, there's the new generation of guys, and they don't even know
Who you're
the hell
talking about.
I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Like, don't get me wrong, the new stuff that you see, like, Fred's new stuff is great, but it's the old stuff,
Yeah.
It,
All
the old stuff. Was
It has more charm.
Oh yeah, like
Well, and then the new stuff that's out and everything that's out, like it's new and it's going, but it hasn't like proven itself, or even some of these younger guys. I'm not saying they're not killers or they're not anything, but like you saw it. You saw years of those guys going. That's why you go.
you put that. Like to me, that's one of the biggest things. Like and I don't want to put him on this high pedestal, but Jeff Foyles, when he you have that rock and roll music
For sure. Yo.
and these ducks in his face in the layout blinds with his face paint on, and they're shooting these birds and they're just, and you're like,
I know.
Wow.
It was game changing for
like
sure.
to me when I
Yes.
seen that, I was like,
I know.
this is what I
Is
need to
wicked.
do with my life. And the funny thing is, we're sitting in chairs by my fireplace in my lodge in Saskatchewan because of what these guys, some may know who I am, and most of them probably don't, and that's fine, but they don't know me, but they have changed so much.
They planted a seed.
And now I'm sitting here and I have a lodge and we bring all these guys and we do podcasts and
Right.
YouTube stuff and Wild
Right.
TV
That's right.
and all these Americans and guys from all overseas. We got Iceland and
Finland. Juho came last year for sure.
And China and New Zealand from all over the world to come here to hunt with me. And who the hell am I? And you have, like, yeah, I kill birds, don't get me wrong, but like you have these guys and it's like,
Well, they're just icons you
Yeah,
just look up to,
it's
and
just
they've
like-
just done enough.
they helped me get here and they don't even know it. And
Yeah.
there's probably so many other people like that that they've done stuff for and they don't even know.
Yeah, it's this was good. Now I feel better because I got it out of my system. Because this has been eating at me all week. Like I really want to talk about this. So yeah, I'm interested. So you listen to the podcast, like listen, shoot me a text, like shoot me an email, go to our Instagram, go to like tap a comment on here, like do whatever you need to do and tell me who we're missing because I'd love to know more about, because even some of those guys on that main field and stream list, like I was like, I didn't know that guy's name. Like I knew that was
Someone's
created,
innovation.
right? But I don't know.
You didn't know who
that.
did it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's cool stuff. So yeah.
So
I'm
the
always
list is
down
an
to
eye
learn.
opener in many ways.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. It just got me thinking. I'm not saying like I didn't say the list was bad or this or that. I didn't say anything about that. All I said was it got me thinking about everything that has affected me to get into this industry.
Yeah, and that's what, like when I read it and you brought it up and I read it and I was like, surprised some of these guys weren't even on here.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the other guys need to be taken down. I just feel like,
You just had things in your mind of what you were
Yeah.
thinking when you thought of that. Me too. That's
and
what
like I said, and like it's also age related,
sure.
flyway, you know, and where you grew up.
Influenced for sure.
Right, because you know, like where I was from is like that Southern Ontario area, and like we're not far from Ohio.
For sure.
Clinton
You're right
Decoy,
there.
we're right there.
The
we're
D's
not
right across the bridge.
We're not
for sure.
not far. Like to go to Detroit, we're 15, 20 minutes. It's not far, and then you know you got Ohio across the across the lake, and
Zink's right there.
you know
for sure.
the boys are all right there.
Stalls right in Michigan.
Yeah,
for
like
sure.
there were some big players, and like
I know.
George I know personally, and
For sure.
he was a great guy.
For sure.
You know, he's still alive,
Still
but
is,
like
right.
he's a great guy. But like he taught me a lot of things, and
There's
you
no
know,
doubt.
and talked to me about stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of
And there is a part of the industry that is completely off that list, but it's such a vital part, and it's hard to pick out names when it comes to that. But imagine all the people at the R&D in the ammunition manufacturing that have made our lives
Oh,
easier.
man. That's
well,
a whole other.
the problem with the ammunition is they cost me a lot of money,
Well, that can be taken care of.
regardless of what you shoot. It's a
Federal online. Dan, can I get more?
yeah, exactly,
More ammo, more
Yeah.
ammo.
exactly.
All right, so throw some comments. Appreciate everything. Hit us up if you want to check our stuff out, fabrand.com. In Canada, fabrand.ca. If you're in Iceland, you look up this clown.
Vedhúsið.
There you go. We have all our international distributors on our
UK.
website, so you can go. UK, we got Italy, Finland, Germany,
New Zealand.
Denmark, New Zealand, Bulgaria, Malta.
Italy.
So yeah, so as I said, so hit us up, throw some comments. Big shout outs to everybody that does stuff with us on our last pass series. Loophole, Rogers Sporting Goods, of course, Federal Ammunition, and of course you guys are always having us up and doing stuff for us, and we truly appreciate that, bro. So thanks. So appreciate you guys listening.
Thank you.
Oh, and Weatherby, I miss Weatherby. Oh my God, I'll get shot by Kyle now. So yeah, oh my God, Weatherby, holy crap. So yeah, that's it. Now you can go.